The Russians are trying to strengthen the defense of Crimea by closing traffic across the bridge and installing new barriers. Ukrainian intelligence is monitoring the situation on the peninsula and preparing for new strikes on the occupation infrastructure. The representative of the Ukrainian Volunteer Army, Sergei Bratchuk, in the air of Channel 24, noted that there may be positive news from Crimea in the near future. He hinted that the enemy is losing control despite attempts to stabilize the situation on the peninsula. The Russians are trying to strengthen the peninsula's defenses, in particular closing traffic across the Crimean bridge and installing additional barriers. Ukrainian intelligence is closely monitoring the situation in all directions, recording changes in the work of the occupiers and their attempts to patrol the waters of Sevastopol. Some of the information, according to Sergei Bratchuk, is used to plan future strikes. We are fully monitoring the situation in all locations. I cannot provide all the information because it is used not only for reconnaissance but also for appropriate strikes, explained the representative of the Ukrainian Volunteer Army. Russian troops are trying to calm the local population, creating a semblance of stability. For a while, they have managed to restore supplies of fuel and lubricants, but Crimean residents are still stockpiling supplies in their own garages, leading to explosions and fires, the expert said. Work on Crimea continues. I think that the news from the peninsula in the near future will be quite interesting and positive for us, concluded Sergei Bratchuk. Despite the attempts of the occupants to strengthen the defense and control the situation, their actions do not change the general trend. Ukrainian forces retain the initiative, and operations on the peninsula remain one of the main areas of pressure on the enemy. In this case, Russian authorities are expanding financial incentives for workers involved in military projects on the temporarily occupied Crimea. The sought-after specialists are expected to travel to the peninsula to repair military equipment necessary for Russia's war against Ukraine. For these trips, double pay, coverage of daily expenses, and housing are promised. Center for National Resistance says, note that these workers, although they receive double pay, have no official status, and in case of injury or death, their families may not count on payments, while they themselves receive benefits, because the Kremlin does not value the lives of its subordinates. According to the relevant resolutions, compensations and double pay apply to business trips to the regions, including Crimea and Sevastopol, and the costs are covered by employers and organizations where the workers are officially employed. Such information is confirmed by materials from Russian agencies and the position of human rights defenders regarding risks for workers in the occupied areas. According to the Atesh movement in the captured Sevastopol, works continue to dismantle decommissioned equipment for repair of combat vehicles as well as armored systems. According to sources from the depot of one military unit, dozens of dual-use trucks and multipurpose vehicles have been removed. Satellite images confirm the use of this equipment as donors of spare parts for combat operations in southern Ukraine. A scandal has erupted in Yakutia, Russia, surrounding Vasily Trifonov, a veteran of the so-called SVO. Authorities evicted the occupier from an apartment he had been given for his participation in the aggression against Ukraine. The man filmed the incident, complaining that he was being evicted in the winter in October right onto the street. Bailiffs came to Trifonov's home and declared that the apartment belonged to someone else. The so-called veteran was forced to leave the apartment despite the state's promises of support for war veterans. They came to evict me. It was winter, October. I'm an SVO member. You see how they do things here? The bailiffs came to take my apartment. They took my apartment that evening. So, guys, don't fight in the SVO, the occupier declared. This episode is yet another example of how the Russian authorities treat those they themselves sent to fight against Ukraine. While propaganda promises care and support, in reality, the occupiers are being thrown out onto the streets without the slightest sympathy. Trifonov's story clearly demonstrates that for the Kremlin, veterans are merely expendable, losing their value immediately upon returning from the front. Russia uses its soldiers as instruments of war, then dispose of them as soon as they become unnecessary. Recall, Russian government struggles to get more people to sign up for an army contract in certain regions. They are already offered as much as 5 million rubles or a $50,000 one-time payout on sign-up. But there's a catch. The sign-up bonus isn't paid immediately, the new recruits report. The new recruits are getting just a 5-day training, and then they are thrown into attacks on the Ukrainian positions. Only if a soldier survives 4 to 5 attacks, then they are paid out the sign-up bonus. Most of them don't. And if the soldier dies, the sign-up bonus is never paid. The soldier's death is put through the books as peacetime casualty during training. No 5 million death payout. No 4.8 million sign-up bonus. Not even 240,000 rubles salary. Maybe the recruit will get 30,000 rubles, 1 month wage, which is what the peacetime salary is in the Russian army. The Russians governing are out of cash, but they found a way how to screw up the greedy recruits. The soldiers also report that they aren't getting paid 3 million for serious wounds as they were promised. Instead, they are handcuffed in hospitals as soon as they regain consciousness and quickly shipped back to the front, where they are literally sent into attacks on crutches. This way, the state doesn't need to spend money on their treatment and rehabilitation. The soldiers don't get paid 3 million for being wounded, and there is no need to pay them disability pension when the war ends. Just send them into a kamikaze attack. If the soldiers refuse to go into attack, they are punished, stripped to underwear and thrown in a hole in the ground. No clothes. Several people. In winter, after getting a severe beating with sticks. After a couple of days in the hole, the men who survive are again told to go into a meat attack. If they again refuse, they may be shot in front of the unit.